So again, we are in Eruvin, Daf Nun Vav, Nun Ham and Bet. As we're going to continue on to Nun Vav. So Amar Avuna Kol Ir She'ein Ba Yarak Ein Tamei Chacham Rashai L'Dor Ba. First says anything that doesn't have vegetables, Talmud Torah cannot reside there. Name of Yarka Ma'alya. Wait, does that say that vegetables are good for your health? Hatanya Shlosh Shamar Ben Tzefa V'Kol Fin Etakoma V'No Plin Achad Mechamesh Me'od V'Morina Shadam. This is what are vegetables good for you? Didn't we say there's three things that increase one's need to go to the bathroom, and ends up bending his stature and lose 1/500th of his life from the man's eyes. These are them. So okay, now going to At Kivar V'Shechar Chadash V'Yara. So these are the three things that are terrible for you. There's coarse bread, there's coarse flour, there's nothing probably sifted, new beer, and vegetables. Habatume Vikarati, Habishar Yarkina. Doesn't mean that the word is that's not really a problem. What are the vegetables will have that's a problem for you? That's when you're having garlic and leeks. Those are beneficial. But other writers saying that other vegetables are bad for you. Ketanya Shum, Yarak, Creation, Chatzi Yarak, near at stone, near at some chayim. So we have another writer that says garlic is a healthy vegetable. Leeks are half vegetable, meaning they're half as healthy as others. A radish is considered, if you ever have a proper radish, that is considered to be like a elixir of life. That's how healthy radishes are for you to eat. No comments on what you should actually do for your own diet. For that, please consult your local dietitian. Tanya, Nira, no, Nira, some other. Didn't we also teach somewhere else that if you see a radish, you saw death? Lokasha kan ba'alin kan b'imalim. No, the difference is that one is if you're referring to the leaves, which is right, that the leaves are bad, whereas the roots is good. Or ones during the summer where the radish is very good, and ones in the winter where the radishes are not quite so healthy for you. Amarav Yehuda Amarav Kol Irish Yeshlam Malot Horadot Adam Bema Shabbat Meitim B'Chatziyam. So Rav Yehuda also again relating to the truth of different places. So Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav that a city that has many uphills and downhills is attacking the body, and people will die at only half their life expectancy. They'll die, really. They get old young. Marvuna braid of Yeshua, Hanimilata debate Biri, debate Narish on Skinol. So Yeshua said this what they're referring to is the slope between Biri and Beit Narish, right? That's why I grew old early. So current medical science would argue the opposite, but we'll leave that aside for now. Okay, so now back to the start. Now we're back to the question about how exactly to square up our cities. So here we go. So if you have a circular city, the way you're supposed to square it off is according to north, east, south, and west. Yes, let me show the right. So here we go. So the way you're supposed to do it is again north, east, south, and west. Very straightforward. Right. That's how you square your circle. Noten tzvon al tzvon olam, drum olam, v'zmenecha agala b'tzvon v'akra b'darom. Right, and in case you're wondering which way is north, which way is south, remember that the constellation of Earth's Major is to the north, and that of Scorpio is to the south. So basically, the way that you can figure it out very easily is based on the position of the stars. So, or in modern context, basically you'd use the North Star to determine which way is north, because I assume most people don't know. We had to find that, but I doubt most people know where to find Scorpio. But again, Earth's Major is simply the Big Dipper. That helps. Again, alternatively nowadays, it's simply easier. You can simply use a compass, much simpler. So, Ryosi Omer, Imena Dela Rabba Barosh Alam, Rabbi Kamin Kufa. So Rabbi Yossi gives another option that if you don't happen to know, true north and true south based on the stars, so what are you going to do it? So you do it according to the seasons, right? Which is not precise because depending on season is your east and west are not true east or true west. They actually end up being off, as you can see a little bit from this. Again, because the Earth is a little bit slant on its axis, which they knew back then as well. So they would know that it would actually, depending on what it is, you'd have a slightly different axis, and your east and west points would not be as precise. So here we go. Yeah. So, how do we explain this? So again, when the days are long, meaning in the summer, then that means that the route is the face of the north, meaning it rises in the north and sets in the northwest. So meaning it's basically on the northern side. That's why. So bear that in mind when you're drawing it. When you're trying to draw your direction based on the sun. Again, we're now talking about now when we're talking the winter, the short days. That means that the sun these days is going to be toward the south. Again, all this is referring to in the northern hemisphere. If you were in the southern hemisphere, it'll be the opposite, and it'll be a little more complicated. So we're not going to deal with that because we're focusing on what will be like in Israel. And in Baba. So Tkufat Nisan and Tkufat Tishrei, Chama Yotza b'Chatzi Mezrach, V'Kat b'Chatzi Ma'arav. So during the time of Nisan and the time of Tishrei, meaning this is by the equinox when there's the same amount of daylight and as there's moonlight. Yeah, so again when you have 12-hour days. So then, so that means that the sun rises in the middle on the east as well as sets in the west. So it's almost basically true east, true west. This is what we learned from the pasuk in Kohelet. It goes to the north, turns towards the south. So Holech al darom bayom. It heads towards the south during the day. And it starts north at night. When it says Saviv with round and round along the direction, this is talking about the east and the western direction because sometimes it goes properly along east and west, sometimes it goes around it. Meaning as the traversal is a little bit off according to the various times. So again, so here we have some very shy. You see it's a very nice chart. Again, if you'd like to look at it more, you are welcome to, but we will not be spending that much. Again, as much time as Gemara does, we'll explain as pointed out. But again, if it's not quite entirely clear, that's all right as well. Okay, so continue on to Gemara. So Omar Masharsha Lit Nu Lani Kali Titania. So when you see some late. Basically says Rabbi Yossi's rules we just mentioned until now are not really good. Italian and Braita. Lo yitzach hamam elam mikarim mizrachit tzonit v'shaka b'karim mizrachit ma'aravit tzonit. Lo yitzach hamam mikarim mizrachit dramit v'shaka b'karim ma'aravit dramit. So we come to the Braita that says sun has never risen at any point ever from the northeast corner and set in the northwest corner. That's never happened. Similarly, it's never nor from the southeast to the southwest. So that's never happened. So we assume that have two contradictory statements, so therefore we can't necessarily do anything based on what we mentioned by Rabbi. Somewhere Shmuel, what Nisan to Felat El Barbas are Rivei. So I'd like to some more questions of direction of the sun. So Shmuel says that the Nisan, right? So that's in the vernal equinox. Only will occur at one of the 4 quarters of the day. Right, meaning so when will vernal equinox occur? Right, that's the one in Nisan. Right. So, which would be in March, according to March 21st for those following the Gregorian calendar. So. Right, also known as the first day of spring. So So it'll only happen either in the precisely the beginning of the day, precisely at the beginning of the night, or midday or midnight. That's when we'll have this, it could be precisely right. So then to Tammuz Nafelat Ella Bechad Mechatza or B'Shav Mechatza. We're talking about the summer solstice. It only occurs certain times, either only at one and of 1.5 hours, 7.5 hours of the day or the night. And as far as for the Donal equinox, meaning September 21st, so that will occur either 3 hours, 9 hours, or be during the day or be during the night. And as far as the winter solstice, so again, that's the longest night. So so when that's occurring, that's again for the Teve in the Gregorian calendar, that'd be in December 21st. So that only happens on the 4.5 hours or 10.5 hours, and they'll be doing it in the night. That's when that equinox would occur, when the winter solstice would occur. And it's all based on the fact that there are 91 days, 7.5 hours between the beginning of one season and the next one. Meaning we are following the Caesarean calendar, not quite the Gregorian. That's how it's all calculated. And similarly, each season begins precisely 1/2 hour past the beginning of the season. So that's in regards to the rotations of the planets around the sun, right? Mercury, Moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, and Venus. So each one is going to be by each season the rotation starts half an hour later. Again, for more on how this works out in astronomy, again, we'll mention as I'll try to find what we can now. But again, if you want to know more, please visit your local astronomer. Amar Shmuel and Lachad Skufa Nisan Afal B'Tzedek She'ena Meshaber Et Elana. So Shmuel said, there's no case when the vernal equinox occurs in the planet in the hour of Jupiter, and it does not break would not break through the strong winds. And if we were ever to have a new moon appear at the hour of the moon, and the hour of Jupiter would also mean bad things. It would also, so again, if all these worked out a certain way, it would lead to bad things for your crops, whether that be in terms of the Jupiter sun, similarly by Jupiter, again, this by the winter solstice, it would dry out the seeds. And this applies whether the new moon appeared at the hour of the moon or the hour of Jupiter. Again, these are times in the So again, this is again saying relative to the moon, how that comes out. Again, it is a little weird, but a little hard to wrap your head around. But again, that's how they're referring to it. Okay, continuing on. Tanarban. Marbea and Ta'ir, Osel Takvi Tabla Marba. So we're now back to Eruvin and less in the I'm going to skip over the astronomical stuff, let's look at the Eruvin stuff. So again, when you are squaring up the city, you base there or moving around 2,000 amot tablets around. Yes, we have our square tablet in the center, and then we have 2,000 north, 2,000 south, to the east, down to the west. Okay, like each of those 2,000 squares circling, as you see in that diagram there. Okay. Close them about to come in, and then you go, and then you first you square the middle circle, and then you add the squares around it. The closer Marbet to come in, also talk me to Marbet. And then you end up adding 2,000 on each side. Shumodeh, Lo Yumdod, Memsa, Karen, Alpine, Amma, Midnei, Shu, Mafsid, etc. When you're measuring, you don't measure it off the corners, rather instead you're just adding, you do it like in a grid, and then you fill in the corners after based on a grid. Rather, it's right. So you take a 2,000 square tablet, you put it there, because otherwise you measure 2,000. Otherwise, you're losing part a lot of the deck. Therefore, we end up actually getting an extra 400 amot on each corner on each side of it. You're getting an extra 800 amot on each direction of the sum. By not doing it according to a simple circle, but by doing it by squaring, you end up gaining an extra 1,200 amot on the diagonal, which is a very large amount added. Amar Ba'ay Mishkach Allah b'mata dehavya trei alpei atre alpei. So this is the case. About now in terms of the amount that's added, is assuming that the city was that is 2,000 by 2,000, meaning the round city that had a diameter of 1,000. That's the one that we're referring to that we gained. That this is the distance gained. Again, your city is different. They're not that you gave the corners to be different based on the measurements. So we're here. We're doing easy to do, perfect. City that has a radius of 1,000. That's what we're dealing with. This simply makes math much simpler. Okay, that's what we're talking about in that case. That was the Beit was referring to. Tanya Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yossi, Tchum Arei Leviim Alpayim Amah. So the Beit, Rabbi Eliezer said that the distance around the city of the Levite cities was 2,000 amot. Semihan Elaf Me'amayim Midrash Simsa Midrash Eruvin Bashar Sadot Grami. So again, the first 1,000 were considered to be empty space, and the rest of it was meant for built vineyards for the Levite to have. So, and that's how it goes. So how do you know there's 1,000 that are basically empty, and then comes the fields of Levite? So so this says from the wall of the city, you measure 1,000 amot around. So surround the city with 1,000 cubits on each side, and that means that open space is 1/4 of the total area of outside the city that's included in the sum. For via, what do you mean by quarter? It should be half then, right? 1,000, 2,000. So Amarabba bar Adam Mushucha Asbirla. So Rabbi said, Bar Adam Surveyor explains the calculation as follows. So Mashachat La B'mata Havia Trail Bay Al Trail Bay. So start with the city, 2,000. Chum Kavi Hava Shitzar. Then how big is how big is the total plum? Not counting the city itself. 16,000. Karnot Havan Shitzar. Again, you get 16,000, not counting the corner. Yeah, the corner inside is another 16,000. Al Tamnet Zichron Arba de Karnot Kam Havia Trezar. Basically, so we have the total amount being 32. Subtract 8 million square cubits from the area of the boundary. And they subtract 4 million from the corners that are considered that are part of the city, and that means that the empty space is 12 million. You have to Midrash via. They haven't thought that in. What do you mean that it's that this is a quarter? This is clearly a third, right? Because there's 32. So there's 32 million total, and then you just got 12. So 12 over 32 is much closer to a third than it is to being a quarter. So no, so it's where if you're doing Aita Arba Damata Shadi Alayu Akati Tota, if you're going to say add the 4,000 city itself, that still means that it's only at a third then. Right? It's only still off. So what's going on here? Right? So again, our math system still isn't working. All right? What do you mean? it does work. The issue is that who says the city, you thought the city had to be square 2000 by 2000? No, the initial city had a radius of 1000, meaning the 2000 to 2000 actually meant there's a bigger difference. And then if you do the math there, then it actually does work out quite well. Okay, and for the math, again, everybody's looking on their own. It's an excellent review of high school geometry. So comma Maruba Yitzhar Agos, how much bigger is a square over a circle, a rectangle over a circle? Via. Dollar via Minai. It is one, right? The difference in area is one quarter, partial dollar, right, is 1/4. So dollar via Minai, partial. So that means that instead of having the area of the Midrash being 12, but now it's 9. And then if you have 9 out of 36, because those 4 then go into the area of the outer Tchum. So therefore, it actually, so again, 9 versus 36 works just fine. Okay. But the same thing could be found if you had a city of 1000 by 1000. Again, similarly, if you had a city that was 1000 by 1000 in a circle, similarly, we would say that the Zichron itself is 8, and the corners add 16, 12, 24. Dalma Arba the Zichron, the root is 4 from the Zichron. Barba Zichron, come here, it's fine. That's we get 8. Tzoltahavo. This is only a third then. Use of our book, it says again, we fell trap again. You started talking about a square. It should have been a circle. If you go come over, it's a circle. Come on, Maruba, Yetera, it's 1/4 difference. Alravia, Pachel, Shita, that means you have 6 in it. That means that's 86. Shita, Mastering, Barba, or Bibaba. And then, right, and then you have 6 out of 24, and therefore then we're good. Ravinamar, Maravia, Ravia, Nisoman. So no, Ran says no. We mean by a quarter event, that is a quarter of the total area of the boundary, and that's what they meant. And Ravashi Amar, my Ravia, and the Krana. Ravashi says no. The other option is this is 1/4. Well, what does it mean by 1/4? Is 1/4 of the corners means that 1/4 of the corners will be taken up by the inner area towards the outer area. Okay. Again, so again, I apologize for all of there's a lot of math here. If it wasn't clear, I apologize. But again, this is an excellent exercise in geometry. So if anybody happens to know of a high school in geometry right now, this is an excellent way for them to practice their geometry. Okay. Yeah, everybody.